be. Alrighty. We're back. So, just as I said, get going back home. I thought to do race recap here on YouTube instead of Instagram because I've lost my privileges on Instagram to do lives, and so this is the place now. So race today was 2:44 p.m. So earlier than I had anticipated on the start time. But if you missed the Instagram thing, it was a bit chaotic at the very start. So basically went out to where they start the race, and the race how do you say it again? Connoisseur? I don't know. The race official? I feel like I'm saying connoisseur. But the race official was there, the guy handling registration, and he did not know where the registration was. He was asking me, is it here? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I think so. I know this is the start line, but no idea. So we were there for a bit, and I was there early because I was wanting to get my bike checked since I've never had a UCI check on my bike before. So this was a bit stressful, thinking like, all right, we'll see what happens. I had called a bike store this week, a pretty high-end bike store, and I asked them, do you have anything there to check like UCI, like whether a bike's UCI legal or not? Saying to them, at this point I've just been like, taping rulers together and seeing if it's legal, like just from what I'm seeing. But in any case, they had said no, they would be doing essentially the same thing. In fact, they don't even know what the rules were, so they would have to be looking them up as they go. So it was a bit stressful thinking, I've done this myself, which I have a lot of confidence in my own mechanical working, but as I said, I don't know how are their rulers going to be measuring compared to mine, essentially. Hello. Thanks for joining. And so, went early to get that done. But then this whole thing of, are we doing this here? Are we doing it back at this arena, which is like a couple kilometers down Highway 2? Where are we going? And so was there for like 30-40 minutes, and it was like noon at this point, and it was already just boiling. I had got Dad nicely went over to the gas station just nearby and picked up a bunch of what's it called, waters, like just big jugs of water, but was just very hot. Like, and I probably got like just a disgusting sunburn just from, there was no shade where we were, and so it's just like out in the sun, just baking. I got quite a headache right now, just I could feel it just from sun. And so, was there for a little while. Everyone is kind of coming up, and there were some words being exchanged and racers, because things on the day was that there were 68 people racing, and for some reason there were no gaps between all right, I think we are back live. It looks like it's counting again. So there were 68 racers, there were no gaps between, and we were going 30 seconds apart. So what essentially it would mean is that every single person is going to be on the course at the same time. And what's even more interesting on this is that everyone was there were multiple people doing multiple sections, doing different distances. So some people were doing 20K, some were doing 30, some were doing 40. I was doing 40. And like the elite women, for example, were doing 30. And so their turnarounds, there were different turnarounds, and there was also different talks about the turnarounds, because the people who were doing 30, initially for some reason, they were going to have them turn around at 5K, which would mean that they're doing 3 loops. And then at the last minute, because one of the racers, I was alongside them, had said, why aren't we turning around at the 7.5K mark? Make it 2 loops instead of doing 3 out-of-backs. And the person didn't know, and then in fact they took it under advisement and changed this at the last second. So apparently, according to my dad, some people didn't actually even know if they were done or not. They were just kind of going in and just like not sure what loop, like how many loops they're supposed to be doing, what distance exactly they're supposed to be doing. So there was a lot of confusion around this time, and as I said, there were definitely some frustrated racers, because the other thing is, in addition to everybody being on the course at the same time, the 10-kilometer stretch of road on Shelter Valley Road was going to be 100% open to cars. Not like, on one or something. I mean like open. And there was a lot of car traffic. And there were some, according to Dad, some very angry people at the start line because there were some extremely close calls. So we were very lucky that there were no incidents. We were very lucky because, in my opinion, there should never be cars on a course ever with people riding bikes, ever. I don't mean partially closed. I don't mean, like a pylon. I mean, the connection's just going in and out as we go. Okay, going on the 401 here, and so there's a couple little hollows here near Coburg, so it should even out once we get past Coburg here. In any case, what was I talking about? Oh, so in my opinion, there should just never be cars on courses. I've almost been hit by a car. Well, I have been hit by a car in training, but in racing in Gulf Coast, for example, I was the closest I've ever been to being absolutely T-boned by a car, because one came through an intersection at, 100k an hour, and for some reason the police officer there didn't stop this person. They just continued on through, and I braked so hard that my front wheel nosedived, and that was a very scary experience in Gulf Coast, and it ended up actually splitting the group, because I was with this chase group at the time, and then we were split after that moment, and I couldn't catch back on. So anyways, I think there have been too many incidents with cars and racers. If people are trying to race, they're trying to put down power, they're not paying attention, they're not being as safe, and I'm saying this on myself. I'm not being as safe as I should be, and I'll talk about also why, in terms of the road surface, what that had to do with it. So I think it's just a really bad situation, and I wasn't actually complaining, because with all of this, it was like, I'm the newbie. I've never been at one of these races before. I don't know is this normal? So it feels weird to me if I'm going to be complaining, even though I've never done one of these races before. So it's like, here I'm thinking this is ridiculous, but I'm saying it under my breath because I don't know, is this normal? And so it's kind of hard to complain about something and then somebody come back to you and be like, no, yeah, it's been like that forever, so deal with it. So in any case, there were a lot of angry people at this point. At that time, another race official came around, and she just gathered everyone up, and we were kicked out of the area because we weren't supposed to be parking there. And then we went back over to the community center, brought the bike back, rode the bike back, got it checked, and was very happy to see that my bike was perfect. The official actually didn't know some of the measurements in terms of category measurements and stuff like that. I had to tell him, I'm 80 and 10 are the two measurements, but whatever. I'm not driving, but I appreciate the thing, but I am in the passenger seat, and so thank you for the feedback, but I am not driving the car, and so
right here.
Yeah, no, my dad is driving the car. Someone said that I'm being unsafe doing a live stream. Thanks very much, but I'm in the passenger seat. But I agree, if I was using the phone and driving, that would be stupid, seeing as I'm actually holding the phone right now. And I've been the person that have yelled at cars many times when I see them looking, or even just looking down at anything, changing the radio. I'm the guy yelling at them. But any case, so what was I saying? We went back, checked the bike, and then it was good. It was at the regulation and everything like that. So that was a really, like, that was a big win for me. I was like, yes, because I did that on my own. It was like a really good testament to the work and research that I put in. So that was a big win to start the day. So it's going to be, yeah, you could probably turn in here. I think it was the next one, but it's okay. So any case, the big thing of the day, and so I'm getting to the race now. So there's a lot to take from the day, a lot of lessons to take from the day. There's a lot of wins. There's also, I always have feedback. I've said this before. I'm not someone who's just like content with things and being like, yeah, that was like, there's always stuff to work on. I think that's what makes people good, gets them better, is if there are people that are always striving to do better. Looks like if you probably turn there, I would have turned there. Yeah, we're just not to get to the other side. Yeah, I agree. It sometimes definitely looks like that, because it kind of mirrors the image. Anyways, so race is a 40K. As I said, I'm starting at 2:44:30, which is also a little weird because apparently the winner of last year is supposed to go last, and said the winner was going 30 seconds behind me, which was kind of, you're going that way. Oh, that's, yeah. Sorry, you got to go this way and back out around this median, and then you're going to go back around that way. Yeah, so go through the parking lot. Sorry, we're just getting something here. That's it right there. Okay, so the big lesson of the day was that, sorry, 1 second. I'm going to get out. The big lesson of the day was that the heat, and this is kind of, sorry, I'm just getting out of the car. Big lesson of the day is heat management. And this is kind of my frustration, is I worked so hard at heat training, but then come the day, I didn't really execute on that heat training. I worked hard at the physiology behind heat, like heat stress, like, and improving my heat tolerance. But I didn't do a good job having the strategies in place to deal with that heat. And also the other thing was when I came to Coburg to do this time trial, I had thought, I was racing at 5 o'clock, thinking that there'd be gaps between the groups and whatnot. And so I thought, okay, I'm racing at 5 o'clock. It's going to be 20 degrees, something like that. Like, it's not even going to be an issue. But instead, today I was, I'm standing out in the sun for 4 hours. And so when I got to the start line, I was actually already at zone 3 heat stress on the core temp. And in the warm-up, I kept saying to my dad, I'm like, I'm overheating. I'm way too hot right now. And so for next time, I do actually own an ice vest, and yet I didn't bring it here. And like, there were other people around me with ice vests on, and I'm like, I didn't even bring mine. I have it. I have one. And I didn't think to bring it because I never really thought heat was even going to be an issue here. And I, for some reason, just didn't, even though like we know that being cool and in temperate conditions is also a gain. It doesn't have to be hot for you to get a gain off the vest. Give me 1 second. Sorry. I'm going to get Beyond Meat combo, okay, with Coca-Cola to drink and onion rings instead of fries, okay? Okay. So Beyond Meat combo, Coca-Cola, and onion rings instead of fries. Put it in my order. But So yeah, it's like we know that being cool, even if it's not that hot, makes a huge difference. And here, it was like a total, like, I hate using the word, but it was just a total brain fart, where it was like, here I trained so hard at heat training, and then I come to the race day and I really didn't. Yes, the physiology is maybe there to, like, have good heat tolerance, but I didn't do anything on the day to help deal with it. Instead, like, I'm out there standing in the sun for, like, I don't know, 4 hours just baking and telling my dad constantly, I'm like, I am boiling right now. It's so damn hot. Like, just being like no shade, just out right in the middle of this road, doing the warm up. I am dripping sweat, and getting to the start line. I'm sitting at, I think it was like 2.8, 2.7, 2.8, standing on the start line. So like borderline zone 3. And that was very evident with the numbers and everything today. So I started out, and so for a little backing on data, my threshold heart rate's 168 beats a minute. And here I start out, and at about the 1 mile mark, I'm looking and seeing 178 beats a minute. And thinking, at first I just thought, well, it's adrenaline, you just pumped up, like you got the caffeine in you and adrenaline, and like it'll be fine, whatever. But then the heart rate just kept going up and up and up, and I'm seeing 181, 182, 183, and like I'm early into the race here, and looking at this and being like, oh my Lord, I am now literally at higher heart rate than I have seen in more than 3 years now. Like less than 10% into this race, I am at a higher heart rate than I was sprinting to the finish line on the Alpe du Zwift. Like, and I'm not saying that I adjusted my pacing to that. Like, I'm not like, oh, like I'm getting too high, let me like try to bring it down. It was just like, let me just keep going, like, and like as hard as I can, basically. Let me just keep going. But it just kept getting hot, like higher and higher and higher. And I'm watching the core temp go up and up and up, and actually recorded the highest core temperature I've ever recorded since having it like half a year or something now, by a significant margin. So normally when I'm doing heat training, like when I have winter coat and everything on, when I get to about 102.6, 102.7, I'm needing to turn the fan on, because I'm like, it's way too hot. And I'm really suffering at that point. That's 102.6 to 102.7. And today I hit 103.3. I don't know what the actual decimal point is just yet, because I haven't uploaded the data yet, but I saw, at least on the Garmin, 103.3 Fahrenheit, which is like, I mean, you can ask like any kind of thing online or anything like that. If you're at 103.3 core temp, like that is dangerously high. And as I said, it was reflected in the power, in that I felt my legs felt really good, but I just had no power, like none. It was the lowest power I've recorded in any of these efforts that in the 3 efforts so far, like any of them, like there's been 100 of them. In the 3 efforts that I've done, it was the lowest, and it was about 20 to 25 watts under what I was wanting for the day. But yeah, it was just like, it felt like anytime like I went back above 310, 315, it was like, yeah, I could hold that for a second, but it like, a little bit, but then it started dropping back down again, and then I would try to bring it back up, and then it dropping back down. And so, yeah, it was like kind of stuck in fourth. I felt like I was basically just in a sweet spot workout. Like, it was like, from the legs perspective, it was like, yeah, we can keep going for a while if I wasn't melting out here. And it was pouring out of my helmet. Like, just like the helmet right now is disgusting on the visor. Like Paulina had tried it on after the race just because she wanted to see it. And now that I look at it when it's now in the car, being like, I'm a little embarrassed, because there's like sweat all over this visor. And so, Yeah, it was very difficult, I found, from a heat perspective, and even this morning, because again, I didn't think heat was going to be an issue looking at the forecast and everything on the day. I actually ended up taking my bottle off the bike because I thought, well, I'm never even going to drink it, and like, you know, it's going to be a couple watts lost from having it on, so I'll just take it off, whatever. And in hindsight, it's like, it would have been nice to have it, but there would have been so many other things that would have been nice to do. Like, it would have been nice to have an ice bucket there to put my helmet into it, basically, beforehand. Like, put something on my head to cool down, have an umbrella to keep myself in the shade for as long as possible. Paulina was telling me after the race, she races with like a sock filled with ice down the jersey. Looking at that, being like, why didn't I do that? Like, I didn't. Well, I'll tell you why that I didn't know was UCI legal or not. I thought, like, you know, you got to be in your suit and that's all. But any case, so the heat was a huge limiter, but that is why, like, if anyone's wondering why am I doing so much heat training all the time, it's because I have since one race in Florida in 2016, I have suffered immensely in the heat, in that, like, my performance just tanks, and that's why I had been doing so much heat training to try to kind of combat this weakness of mine. And so, yeah, it was frustrating because here you come here today, and while, like I said, as I said, you've trained really hard, the under the hood, you didn't really do anything about it on the day, because I didn't really think about heat being an issue. As I said, looking at the forecast and thinking I was going at 5:30, like, I was like, it's gonna be like, you know, 19 degrees or something like that, whatever. But in fact, it was like, you know, 28 or something like that with the humidex, and just the sun felt brutal out there at noon, like 11, 12, 1, 2 o'clock, just out in the sun. So that was very difficult. But the positives are that despite holding, in my eyes, kind of like pathetic power, like looking at it, and I'm gonna upload it and be like, what the hell is this piece of crap right here? But despite holding really low power for me on a course that is 100% chip seal, so really poor pavement, and that's why I said before, in terms of the cars and not riding perhaps as safe as I could, there's one line where it looks like the snowplow has gone, where it's like a little bit shinier pavement. And so if you ride in that line, it's quite good, but that line is very close to the center line. And so that was basically where I was riding most of the race. And when I was passing people and stuff like that, I'll tell you, there were a couple times where if there was a center line rule, I was borderline. But I'm riding basically in the middle of the road. So if there are cars behind me, it's like, I'm not really paying attention. I'm trying to ride the fastest line in the road, which is this shiny part of the pavement. And so I'm not paying attention of trying to stay in the shoulder or anything like that. So the positive, as I said, is despite holding really low power, I averaged 46.71 kilometers an hour, which to me is a massive, massive win and testament to all the work that I did on the bike itself. Unfortunately, in this case, it seems like the bike outperformed me, but I think that's, as I said, it's a testament to the amount of work and research that I did on the bike, because I averaged 46.7k an hour at like 290 something watts, you know, with 1, 2, 3 turnarounds on 100% chip seal pavement. So like really garbage pavement. And so to me, I'm like, I don't know what that means yet in terms of what the CDA value is on that, but give me 1 second. Let me just put this down. 1 sec. Thank you, Dad. Am I back? I'm back. I don't know what that means in terms of the CDA just yet. because I need to crunch the numbers and everything. But I think that means if you're averaging very close to 47K an hour on chip seal at less than 300 watts, that CDA must be insane. Because it's like, that's so fast for not a lot of power. And so if I can do better next time with my cooling and staying cool before the race, having an umbrella to stay in the shade, wearing my ice vest, having bags of ice and a bucket of ice and stuff like that to put my head in and whatnot to stay cool before the race. Because it's not just, that's what I'm kind of kicking myself, but also just putting it down in the mental thing for next time, which is like, you can train heat training, but it's not just the training, it's the execution on the day, which you need to have strategies in place to deal with the heat. It's not just the training in the heat component. There are cooling strategies to do. 1 second. Back. There we go. Home. There we go. So that's my big takeaway from the race is all the work that I did on the bike from in terms of the physical bike paid off massively in that I averaged faster than I've ever averaged in a 40K, 46.71 on not great pavement, and did it at a really low power. And not like low, like much lower than I've been training at, like by 25 watts for these kinds of efforts. It was, what would it be, like almost 30 watts lower than one of the little efforts that I did on Monday, like 35 watts lower. And so it's like, and yet I averaged 46.7. And it's like, if I do better and average the power that I know I should be doing, right, like 35 watts higher, then it's like, that speed is going to be insanity. And that is the big takeaway. That it's like, the pieces are in place to have the performances that I know capable of, and also met some really great people after the race, got some new training partners. In fact, a guy, Max Bradwin, I think I beat him maybe by 10 seconds or so, but we were very close. Yeah, we're going to train together, and the other guy, I'm blanking on his last name right now, but also out in Guelph, and so we're going to train through the winter together. He said he's got a good setup in the garage, and so we'll just bang out some sessions. And I do think I was talking to a lot of people after the race, and the guy who won it, a really good cyclist from Los Angeles, from the Legion of Los Angeles team, like a UCI Continental Pro team, was talking to him after the race. Really nice guy. And I think he was actually I think he was impressed, wouldn't you say? I think he thought, for first race and whatever, blah blah blah, first time trial, I think he was quite and he even said to the Zach Webster there, it's really good having another guy out here, because they're usually quite small fields, and so it's nice having another guy. And so I'm excited for next year to start incorporating more of these into the triathlon calendar, alongside it, and improving. And I do think there are still watts on the table. There are still things I can improve, just from a fitness perspective, but I think also just from the execution perspective was what was lacking today. And I think the performance is there. And last but not least, and I wrap this up, is the last takeaway was as I talking about, the different people that I talked to after the race and stuff like that, it was really great being back in the community, from that perspective, just being back, talking to other athletes, talking shop, which is something I always What is this guy going 60 on the 401? Anyways, so it was great being back out there and getting to interact with other athletes in person, meeting a lot of new people, as I said, meeting some new training partners, some really fast guys, to kind of add some new elements, some pure cyclists, and really get my cycling to the next level for next season, going ahead into triathlon. And so that was a really great thing, just to be back racing, and being part of that community again was really great. And yeah, it took, I don't know if I'm back on. I think it's really cool, and I think that speaks to kind of the all-encompassing nature of time trialing, which I really like. It's so detail oriented. There are so many different angles to attack it from: position, equipment, fitness, etc. Heat, all these things. There are so many different ways to attack it, and I did a great job on one today, was lacking on another, but the ideas and the things come all out from this race, and we write it down all in the little notebook for next time. And this is the first one I've ever done, so it's cool to think, okay, so I'm third in the province. It's a good start. The guys who came third at nationals, like they didn't blow me out of the wall. I think I kept the guy right in, like, once he passed me, my guy right behind me, like I kept him 100 meters up from me and I was closing. If I had 5 more K, I would have passed him back, because he was hurting, and he told me after the race that he was cramping up quite a bit, and I could tell, because I was starting to really bring him back in the last 5K or so. So it's like I was right there, and that's kind of cool. That it's like I was right there with pure win, and I actually think I could have. But that's part of the whole thing. They did a better job than me at the dealing with the heat, and one of them, as I said, saw in the warm-up, the guy right next to me had an ice vest on, and it's like, damn, why did I not bring my ice vest? And I said that to my dad here as I'm dripping sweat off of me warming up at getting really, really hot right in the warm-up. But anyways, always something to work on, which is the beautiful thing of sport, that there's always something to work on, and at the same time needing to be proud of taking the wins when they come, and being proud of yourself too. And I am proud of myself for getting back out on the start line, and not just any start line, but a completely different sport. And I think that's pretty cool, that it's like, never done this before. And so it's like, you're not going back to something, I've done it a million times. It's like, this is totally different. There's so many other things to this that I'm like, I don't even know how this works, and got back out there. And I think that's really cool, and I'm proud of that. And excited to build on it. And we got 2 more time trials this year before surgery. On my own, they are. But I will post about them when we get to them. And I'll catch you next time, and time to eat some food. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you later.